Hi, welcome to African Perspective. My name is Nelda and I make videos about Africa from Mondays to Fridays. The topic of the day is Africa overpopulated? The answer is no. No, guys. I know some of you are disappointed to hear that, but Africa is not overpopulated. Africa is the fastest growing continent in the sense that our women, they are giving birth. They are giving birth. Actually, if you're from Niger, your women have an average rate of 6 children per woman. So I think that is typically why people think that Africa is overpopulated. And actually, before I take credit for all the wisdom I'm about to pour onto you today, I'm just going to give a shout out to Paola Mudanda, who recommended that I do this, that I answer this question. So we're just going to get into what exactly makes a continent overpopulated, or what exactly makes a country overpopulated. There are three factors that you need to look at. The first one is population density. That just basically means how many people are there per square kilometer. Now, Africa, given the size, I know a lot of people say Asia is the largest continent on earth, but as a conspiracy theorist, as a young conspiracy theorist, I think Africa is the largest continent. Don't ask me how. And if you're my geography teacher and you're watching this, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. But I think Africa is the largest continent, and because of that, compared to the fact that we only have 1.5 billion people, we have a lot of habitable land as well. So typically with population density, they don't just look at the entire land that is available in a given place. They look at habitable land. So if, for example, it's very, very hot and it's like a desert basically, we're not going to count that. We're not going to count the desert. But even if you consider all the land that Africa has, compared to the 1.5 billion people that we are very sparsely populated. So like compared to Asia, which is the most populated, and as a matter of fact, very, very close to overpopulation, Asia has 5.8 billion people. No, 4.8, I'm lying. 4.8 billion people. And if you consider the fact that just the Indians and the Chinese, there's virtually the same number of Indians as Africans, the same number of Chinese people as Africans, because those people are looking at 1.4 billion. So this notion of Africa being overpopulated is something that we need to put aside because we need to actually promote a growing population. It's good that our population is growing really fast, but that is one part of the whole overpopulation concept. The other thing you need to consider is resource availability. Now, before I say anything else, I know I can already sense the South Africans coming after me to talk about how many diamonds they have. I can already sense the Ghanaians talking about how much gold they have. I'm not talking about those kinds of resources. I know we have a lot of natural resources. I am a big fan. I mean, I'm from Tanzania. We have a lot of Tanzanites. We have a lot of natural gas. However, what I'm talking about today is things like food, water, energy, things like electricity, things that you need to be able to survive properly in today's world. Africa does not have enough of that. Now, because of that, typically the notion that people have is if you as a government cannot handle, you cannot actually provide these resources for your people, then that is a sign that you're overpopulated. But again, that is not true. Even though we are struggling to be able to feed our people, to be able to provide energy for our people, that doesn't mean that we're overpopulated. Now, I'm going to throw just a tiny little bit of a controversial opinion in there. I think some countries in Africa are too big. Yeah, yeah, I said it. I think some countries are too big. Not just in Africa, by the way. This is just a geopolitical opinion that I hold. I think there should be a limit to how many people you can have in a country because it's like the same thing with like parents. As a parent, there's a limit to how many children you can properly have and actually be able to provide for those kids. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't know what the limit should be, but I don't think it's a surprise that Rwanda, for example, is doing absolutely amazing. I think it's like a nice tiny little country, and I think their leader is actually Paul Kagame. If you're watching this, hi. But I think it's actually a good thing that he's a small country and he's taking his time actually enabling his people, actually ensuring that they have food, they have water, they have these essential things that they need. And Rwanda is not that intense when it comes to like resources compared to its neighbor, the DRC. You cannot compare them in terms of resources, but the DRC is struggling. And my opinion is that part of the reason some countries in Africa are really, really struggling is because they're too big. They're too big for you to handle. So the countries are not overpopulated, but it's just that if you can't manage a small group of people, how are you going to convince us that you can manage a large group of people? And don't give me the argument about the US having 300 million people. We're not talking about the US here. We're talking about your country and whether you're actually able to provide for these resources that your people need. But that is point number 2. Point number 3 is infrastructure capacity. So this goes on the other hand, do your people have enough healthcare access? A lot of African leaders, when they're sick, they're not going to the hospitals that they've built or supposedly built. They're going to go to Turkey, they're going to go to China, they're going to go to India, they're going to go to the US, they're going to go to the UK. and then there's you left struggling with the healthcare system in your country. So that is a sign that that is also one of the reasons people think Africa is overpopulated. It's like, well, you can't even provide healthcare for your people. People are dying in the streets. There is homelessness in the streets. Your roads are crap, and people are staying in traffic for 2 hours. I'm getting very personal because when I was in high school, I went to high school in Dar es Salaam. If I missed, there was a particular bus I had to take because I used public transport, like because I'm a good citizen. But if I missed this particular bus, I would be late to school because the way Dar es Salaam is structured, the traffic jam, you will sit in that traffic jam for 3 hours. You will move like 1 centimeter every 10 minutes. It's not even a joke. And so that is typically a sign, especially in urban areas. And so 45% of Africans live in urban areas. But the thing is, there's very few urban areas to begin with. So if you're watching this video, chances are you are in an urban area and you feel like Africa is overpopulated because your city is overpopulated. But that is because almost half of Africans live in cities. So I hope that explains this concept of why people think Africa is overpopulated. But in reality, we actually are not overpopulated. We should keep growing. We have a growth rate of roughly 2.5%. And I think that's really, 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 really good. We need to keep growing. It's a good thing that our women are giving birth. It's a good thing that we have high fertility rates because other countries are struggling with fertility rates. So the fact that African nations are doing really well is worthy of praise. And I think it's really good that African women are still giving birth in an active way. They're still promoting that. And it's because Africa's median age is roughly 19.3 years. So a majority of Africans are just chilling as kids. Like 40% of Africans are under the age of 14. So good for us. I think we should keep doing that. We have a very young population. Now, we'll talk in a different video about how we're going to handle this young population, but I think it's a good thing that we have the youngest population on Earth, and we should actually start employing this because this is a resource that we have. Our youth are our greatest asset. We need to employ them. We need to funnel them into the areas that they want to work in. We need to create spaces for, especially artists. I think one of my proudest moments of being an African is Afrobeats. Just the fact that we have great music and our artists are actually doing a great, great job. I think we should keep pushing for that. Should keep encouraging people to keep getting into their talents because young people are going to be the way forward for Africa. And this is in all senses. The reason there is change in Kenya in the political space, there's all these protests and people actually getting up in the streets is because of the youth. The reason there is any change going on in Africa is because of the youth. And I think it's important that we keep giving birth, just keep growing, keep expanding. So that is all I wanted to yap about today. And I hope this was useful in answering the question about whether or not Africa is overpopulated. Get rid of that notion. No. Africa is not overpopulated. We can have so many kids. And actually by 2050, I read somewhere, by 2050, Africa could double its population. So let's keep at it. Our continent can handle lots of people. Lots and lots and lots of people. So thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. I'm on the road to 300 subscribers. So subscribe if you want to see me again. Bye.